like to start by asking a question. How many of you have tried to learn a new language before? With a show of hands. Outstanding, that's most of you. How many of you have succeeded? There go the hands. I know the feeling. Well, whether you've succeeded in learning a new language or you're still trying, you are not alone. There are approximately 1.2 billion people learning a new language around the world. The vast majority of them are learning just one language in particular. A language spoken by everyone in this room, as a matter of fact. That's right, about 800 million people are learning English. And they're doing it to get out of poverty. The reason for this is simple. In most countries, you can earn between 25 and 100% more just by knowing English. What about the other 400 million people? Why are they learning a new language? Well, I ask these questions because I'm part of a team that is trying to make language education free for everyone in the world. It's called Duolingo, and we have more than 300 million people using it to learn a new language for free. Now that means that we have one of the largest data sets of language learners in existence. And we've studied millions of people spanning every single country on the planet. Our researchers created this map, and it shows us the most popular language to learn in each country around the world. And it tells us a lot of interesting things. For example, we can see just how much English dominates in green. Most of the world is learning English. This is something that we expected. But then we noticed something unexpected. Something strange. And if I zoom in here, you'll be able to see it too. The data told us that the most popular language to learn in the country of Sweden is Swedish. Seems like a mistake, doesn't it? Can't be that hard to learn, can it? So why was this? Why was the most popular language to learn in Sweden Swedish? Refugees. Sweden saw more than a 10x increase in the number of refugees seeking asylum in the country between 2015 and 2016. And as they arrived, they all began looking for a way to learn Swedish. But where did all these refugees come from? Well, many of them came from Syria. As a matter of fact, there are now more registered Syrian refugees than the entire population of the city of Los Angeles. There are more than 6 million registered Syrian refugees. Now, this is shocking, but it's really not the first time that we had heard something like this. For example, the UN came out with a study not too long ago that showed that more people have access to cell phones than toilets. Now that says something about our priorities, doesn't it? When I found out about this, I wasn't sure whether to be impressed or ashamed. But then I was reminded that over the years, we've received thousands of letters and emails from people who are using technology to get themselves out of difficult situations. Here's one of them. I'll read it to you. Learning German was a necessity for me to advance in my career and broaden my options beyond Syria. Living in a country torn by hideous war and daily terrible news can be unbearable, but Duolingo always found its ways to lift up my spirit. And we've received many stories like this one. And after we discovered what was happening in Sweden, we decided that simply replying to these letters and publishing our research was not enough. So we decided to go further. Much further, actually, about 6,000 miles further to be exact. And we traveled from the United States to the Middle East to find and meet the people who had been writing to us. Our journey begins here in Gaziantep, a city just over the border from Syria in Turkey. And the first person to let us into his home and into his life is a man named Ali. He protested against the Syrian government when the civil war first began. And I don't know what happened during the protest, but he was arrested and he was taken to jail. But as he explained to us, this was no ordinary jail. He was placed in a small jail cell with 50 other men. So small and so crowded that they all had to sit balled up with their knees to their chests, unable to stand and unable to speak for 1 whole year. He said that he did not see the sky for 1 year. After he was released, he fled to Turkey, which is where the story takes more of a positive turn, thankfully. He taught himself how to speak Turkish and English, and he's become a school teacher, teaching computer programming and Arabic language lessons to middle school kids in Turkey. He's doing much better, as you can see there. Next up is a remarkable lady named Noor. Originally from Iraq, she fled after a car bomb exploded outside of her house, shattering the windows and sending bullets flying in all directions. She too fled to Turkey. She also taught herself how to speak Turkish and how to speak English. She now speaks 5 languages and has become a successful software engineer. Her name has a meaning. It simply means the light, which I think is quite appropriate. I have just one more story for you today, and it comes from the final stop on our journey. We were granted last-minute permission to enter this place. This is Azraq refugee camp in Jordan, and it's one of the largest refugee camps on the planet. When most people picture a refugee camp, I think they picture tents, like camping. They don't picture this. Azraq has a population of 37,000 refugees. And out of 37,000 refugees, 60% of them are children. As you can imagine, this was a very difficult place to get into. But even once we were inside, they were very hesitant about how much they wanted to show us. They didn't know why we were there, and they were worried about why we were there. And after a little while, we found out why. It turns out that the camp actually uses Duolingo to teach their refugees English for free. So why would they be worried about us being there? Well, it turns out they were worried that we had come to sue them for copyright infringement because they were putting our logo on the certificates that they give to the students. And they were quite relieved when we told them that this was not a problem and that that's not why we were here. Once they relaxed a little bit, they introduced us to this young man. This is Mahmoud, and Mahmoud is 15 years old, and he has been at Azraq refugee camp since he was a child. His family fled Syria years ago, and they had to move between more than 30 different towns before they arrived at this refugee camp. And we were introduced to Mahmoud because he is just obsessed with learning, completely obsessed with his education. And we asked him what he would say if he could send a message to everyone in the United States. Which is a risky question, to be honest with you. But he did a great job. He said this. He said, "I want them to know about me that I never gave up with the war circumstances that we are in. I love to learn so that life would continue." Now, we met many countless people on our journey. They all had one thing in common. They were not learning a new language to earn 25% more or to get a better job. They were learning a new language to survive. For them, a new language was a chance at a new life. was a chance to find home again. Which left us with just one final question. What do we do about all of this? Well, I decided to take the footage from our journey and turn it into a documentary. The documentary is called Something Like Home, and it was released on World Refugee Day 2018. It's since been seen by more than 1 million people, and it promotes the United Nations Refugee Council petition. This is not a petition that asks for donations. It simply asks the governments of the world to ensure that all refugees in their country get access to free education. So as we go forward, we're building our product not just for the 300 million users we have, but for all 1.2 billion people learning a new language. We consider ourselves responsible for them now. And the same goes for you. Because for better or worse, in today's highly connected day and age, your work has impact far beyond what you could ever imagine. And while you won't always get to decide who gets impacted by your work, you do get to decide how they are impacted by your work and what work you choose to do as a result. For all you know, their very future could be in your hands. Thank you very much.